when war is all around. Where is my love? Who's out there? What's that?
That's Iain Matthews performing an intimate acoustic version of a tune from his new album, How Much Is Enough. This took place this past April, just before Iain went into the studio to cut the album. The process took just a few weeks, and here is Iain now to tell us how and why he's able to work so quickly.
I still can't find it.
I always do my records quickly these days. I know going in pretty much what I'm going to be doing and what it's going to be sounding like. And I record locally with a musician friend of mine, and normally it's 2 weeks and the record's done.
Nice.
You know, yeah. I mean, I just know what I'm doing. 4 days to track, maybe 4 or 5 days for overdubs, same for vocals, and then 3 days for mixing, and you're there. Yeah.
Right. And was it always like that for you, or was there some time where it was like, oh, wait a minute, this could be easier?
Yeah, I mean, back in the 70s, it took longer, and you spent more. It's when record budgets were these huge amounts of money. Yep. We always struggled to find ways to spend it, but we ultimately did spend it.
Of course you did.
Yeah. No, I think since I've been working with independent labels, which for me was the 80s, I've always done my records quite quickly, a month probably. When I was living in the US, I would maybe take a month to do a record, but
right.
Yeah.
All right. And the gentleman that I'm assuming you work with that you're referring to is BJ.
That's right.
Yeah. So what kind of discussions do you, the two of you work together for probably 20 years now as well, I think. So
exactly.
Going into making this record, did you have a sit down? Did you kind of hash things out how you want it to be sonically, or is it more fluid than that?
Yeah, we have a day before we record where we get together, maybe 2 days, go over the songs, make sure that we're choosing the right songs, talk about what kind of sound we're thinking about. In this case, we wanted more of a band sound.
Right.
And then we just plan accordingly, tweak arrangements and stuff like that. And yeah, it's a very painless process that we go through, simply because we've worked together so much. BJ is also a member of an ongoing Matthews Southern Comfort that I have here in
nice.
the Netherlands. Yeah, so we've made several albums with MSC. We made a duo record together a few years ago. So, and we've toured together a lot. We just know each other very well.
Yeah, I've got this record.
Yeah, that's not a recent one.
No, that's going back to you. What do you think when you see that? When you see yourself this is what, 1970?
Yeah. Well, I don't think much at all, really. I just I didn't really know my ass from a hole in the ground back in 1970, but.
Alrighty. Well, let's get into the new record. It starts out with a tune called Ripples in the Stream. So why is that kind of leading things off? How much do you put into the making the first track?
When I was young and foolish, how I fought the urge to run. There was a pearl in every oyster, and I answered to no one. When I was young and headstrong, no good to man nor beast, how I railed against my instincts at the cost of inner peace.
BJ and I decide what the lead off track should be, and usually it's whatever sounds best sonically as a first track.
Yep.
We both just really like the idea of it starting out with that little bass and drum riff, and building from there. Sometimes it's the first track will be there for the lyrics.
Right.
Sometimes I want to say something specific lyrically in the lead-off track, but mostly it's a sonic thing. It's whatever sounds best.
Right. And sonically, do you listen to other stuff that's going on and it's kind of the kids are listening to or making, or what else is selling, currently?
Not necessarily what else is selling, but I listen to a lot of music.
Yeah.
I always have. I mean, that's I get a lot of my inspiration from listening to what other people are doing. I'm not sure if I'm influenced by it. I probably am.
Right.
Subconsciously, I'm probably influenced by what I listen to. Been listening to a lot of Blake Mills recently. Crowded House.
Oh, well, Neil Finn's right around the corner here in his studio.
Yeah, I'm a huge Crowded House fan. Neil Finn fan, actually. I love his solo work a lot too. I think I probably have pretty much everything he's done.
Have you guys ever crossed paths?
Probably briefly.
Right.
A couple of times, but we don't know each other. We're not.
Gotcha.
We're not acquaintances.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he's still cooking along. I think there's a new Crowded House album that just came out about a month ago or so.
Yeah, I saw him play in June. He did an English tour in June, and right. I happened to be there when he was touring, and my wife and I went and saw him play. Yeah.
All right. Now, getting back to your record, you have a tune called "Where Is the Love," which seems to have something to say about current events and things happening around the planet.
I hear the sound of a passing storm. My door's cracked open, TV's on. There's a news alert on CNN. As another hopeless war begins. But where is the love? It's nowhere to be found. Oh, where is the love? They say it's all around, but I can't find it.
I like to be socially aware. I watch the news. I watch the BBC News a lot, and I'm always going to CNN to see what's happening over there. And I think if something strikes a chord with me, then I usually end up writing about it. And that song was inspired by all the stuff that's initially by the stuff that's going on in the Ukraine,
right?
And of course more recently the Israelis and the Arabs, and it just I never did get war. It just
doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense to me. No. But it's all about ego and territory, and money, of course.
Of course, yes, yeah. I mean, and it's a shame, but nothing has changed much over the past 50 or 60 years. It's still going on.
Yeah.
And do you think singing about it and has made any difference? I mean, there was a big feeling in the late 60s that the youngsters were going to sing about this and make changes and change the planet. Do you think
I'm not sure if me singing about it makes any difference. It makes a difference for me. It's a way of processing all that stuff and getting it out there. And I think if you deal with it in the right way, then people are going to listen to it. I think people are curious when they hear a song like that. They like to figure out what it's about and where it's coming from. And yeah, I do it for myself.
Mm. All right. And it's followed by a tune called She's a Digital Girl, which is a bit on the lighter side from the previous song.
Yeah. It's just a light-hearted poke at teenagers these days and their mechanical devices and with their motivation. And we have a 19-year-old daughter, and she's no different to any other 19-year-old. You know, she's a TikTok girl.
In a digital world, she's a digital girl. Up to her neck in a digital swirl. She's stretching those frequencies minute by minute. She's pushing her digital Jones to the limit. But she's alright. Man, she's alright. She's 18 going on 30, but she's alright.
And how does she feel about being referred to as a TikTok girl, do you think?
I think she's okay with it. She acknowledges it. Yeah, I mean, to the point where she actually sang on the track with me.
Right,
so,
right, okay.
You know,
that's nice.
That was a pretty good endorsement, and I think she enjoyed the experience. It was her first time in the studio, and
oh, nice.
Yeah.
And do you check in with her to see what she's listening to and what's going on in her
Occasionally,
world?
she'll play me stuff that she's listening to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not a lot of it resonates with me, but I'm definitely interested.
Right. Okay. And I noticed when I was listening to that track, and also I was listening to one of your older tunes, and I don't know if this is if anybody's ever said it, but I noticed a resemblance to Harry Nilsson in your voice. It's and the way you kind of approach a song singing sometimes. Is that something that's relevant?
It's not conscious.
Okay.
I just kind of, you know, I have the voice I have, and I just
right.
I'm always trying to tweak it and fine tune it and deliver it in the best possible way I can.
Right.
I've never really thought of myself as sounding like Nilsson.
Right.
I don't really know who I sound like. I'm always curious when people make comparisons with other artists. I usually go and listen to that other person and see what it is they're talking about.
Gotcha. Yeah. The track that I heard as well was on one of your older albums on this thing here.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's a Randy Newman song called "What Are You Waiting For?" But that also kind of was like, oh wait a minute, what is that? And then,
well, there is that connection there. You know, Nilsson sings Newman.
That's right.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
It all makes sense now.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of curious, what was it like making this record with Michael Nesmith?
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily the record I wanted to make at the time, but I made the best of it, and it turned out to be a lot of people's favorite.
Yeah.
It still is.
It sounds great.
Yeah. I mean, it stood the test of time. It was Michael was a great guy. I really enjoyed working with him.
Yeah. And when you say it wasn't the record you wanted to make, was it because of the record company, because of other circumstances, or what
it was just too country.
Right.
You know, I met with Michael, and we talked about the record and what kind of album I wanted to make and what kind of songs I wanted to use and what musicians I wanted to use on it. And he said, okay, leave it to me. And I went home to England, and a couple of months later I went back to California to make the record. And I said, well, did you get the players I wanted? And he said, well, not all of them. And I said, okay, which ones did you get? And he said, well, actually, I didn't get any of them. But don't worry. He said, I have a great house band, and they'll do a terrific job. And they did a terrific job, but they were a country band. And
right.
I didn't want to make a country record at that point in my life. Right. I was more in the thinking in the Jackson Browne vein.
Sure. Yep.
So on that level, I didn't really get what I wanted.
Yeah.
But
And
it struck a lot of chords with people.
right. Yep. And he was doing his Stone Canyon Band thing back then, wasn't he? So
That's
Michael,
Rick Nelson.
Oh, that's Rick Nelson. That's right. Pardon me.
Michael was doing his
First National Band. Yeah, that's it. It's in there somewhere. First National Band. Yeah, that's one.
Yeah, First National Band. Yeah, he was making solo records and trying to juggle this, being a producer and running a studio. And
Yep. Now you have a tune on the new album, Rhythm and Blues, which I have to talk about, as I love all that old stuff. And you kind of name check everyone from Bessie Smith and Nat King Cole to Biggie. So what motivated that one?
Let me take you on a trip way back before the blues were hit. When Bessie Smith was letting rip, rag mama rag. It's Harlem 1952, East St. Louis Toodaloo, Duke and Billy Strayhorn too. Now, don't forget those names.
I started listening to black music when I was in my mid-teens. My mom used to listen to black gospel groups.
Right.
And I liked what I heard, and I began to discover other music myself from that. The Impressions and Otis Redding and Aretha and stuff like that. And I've had a loose connection with black music as a listener ever since, really. And I just started thinking about it one day, thinking about the music that I'd listened to and where it had gone, and how it had developed. And I just began writing the lyric. When I co-write, this is a co-write as well.
Okay.
And when I co-write, I tend to finish a lyric and present it in song form. And I sent the lyric to a buddy of mine in Norway who's he's a songwriter / producer, and asked him if he liked it and if he thought he could do something with it. And he came back real positive. And the music that you hear that goes with that lyric is what Freddie Holm, his name is. That's what Freddie put to the lyrics.
Nice.
It's always an adventure co-writing. You never know what you're going to get back.
Right. Well, it's interesting because you mentioned country music, and I've been speaking to a lot of people who are based in Nashville, and that's what they do there. It's all about the co-writing, and there's usually like 5 people that write every song, and it's a big deal. They all sit in the room, and that's how it's done. But that's a relatively new phenomenon, isn't it?
Well, I tried that once.
Right.
I tried going to when I was living in Texas. My publisher sent me to Nashville to do some co-writing, and I did exactly that. They put me with some country writer and put me in a room and said, "Don't come out until you've got a song," that kind of thing. And,
right.
But that's not really how I do it. It's more collaborative, long distance, the way I do it. With that song, Freddie would send me some ideas of tempo and groove, and so we talk over that first, and we choose one that was appropriate, and then he'd send me some different chord progressions, and we talk about that, about which one worked best. And so it was a far more elaborate thing than getting locked in a room in Nashville and looking at the clock all the time and thinking, "My God, am I going to get out of here with a song?" It's a longer process, It was about a 2 or 3 week process writing that song with Freddie and I.
Yep. Yeah. And a lot of give and take, is it? Back and forth?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, even though I present my lyrics in song form, I give the other writer permission to edit, omit,
Right.
just use whatever you think is appropriate for what you're doing. You don't
Right.
have to use the entire lyric.
Gotcha. All righty. All right. Now I wanted to touch on the album artwork. Looks like a kind of stormy thing, storm brewing there, and also the fact that it says Volume 1 on the on the artwork. So obviously there's more to come. I would assume.
You've got the European one. Yeah.
Ah, okay. Well, it does. That's what I saw. Well, online, everything's available.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I presented the same artwork to the American label, and they weren't happy about the Volume 1. They thought it
really.
they thought it looked a little bit like a compilation.
Oh, right. Okay.
And so the artwork's exactly the same, except it doesn't say Volume 1 on the American one. But,
Okay. Well, we're here in
yeah.
New Zealand. We usually get the European stuff anyway. So
Right.
that's all right.
Yeah. I like to use simple artwork as much as possible. Normally, I don't put my face on the cover, or I haven't for a number of years. But
Right.
It just seemed like the right time to do this. I kind of see this as my final solo album,
Okay.
and I thought I'd let people know where I'm at visually on this record, so that they have a reference point.
Yeah. Do you think about your legacy? What you're kind of leaving for others?
I just think I've made enough solo albums.
Okay.
I'm not saying I'm going to stop recording or necessarily stop touring, but
Yep.
I just think my solo albums are somewhere between 40 and 50. I'm not quite sure where.
Man.
Yeah, I know. It's enough for anybody.
So how do you come up with a set list when you do a show?
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy. I try and do a mix of things that people want to hear, like These Days and Woodstock and Seven Bridges Road and maybe Brown Eyed Girl, and then I kind of mix it with more recent stuff. So maybe a 25% of covers, 25% new stuff, 25%.
Whatever you feel like.
It's not easy.
Right, gotcha. Well, since it's Volume 1, I got to assume it sounds like you've never slowed down writing. So, is that the case? Are you still got?
I still write. I don't know how to stop writing, quite honestly. It's just it's a process I've been going through for the last 50 years, and I don't know how to turn it off. It just happens on a daily basis. Whether I've got records in mind or not, I'm just a lifetime songwriter.
Well, there seems to be a lot of that going around these days. There's a lot of artists who are in their 70s and 80s people are going, why do they still do this? And it's just like, why not? What else are you going to do?
Because we can.
Yeah, and still doing a pretty good job at it, so why not?
Yeah, well, the motivation doesn't change. It's I don't feel like I've been doing it for 50 years. I don't feel that there's a need to stop. It keeps me aware also. There's a process of songwriting where you're constantly alert as to what might be good material for songwriting, and it keeps your mind sharp as well. Just being in that mode. I don't know. I mean, maybe one day the valve will close and there won't be any more songs, but until then, I'm just gonna, if it comes through, I'm just gonna process it.
If you enjoyed this episode of the 13th Floor's Music Talk series, please be sure to subscribe to the website or to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram and wherever you find your podcasts. There's a whole lot more to discover.